Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the last week of August, a very exciting time here at the Southampton Playhouse. It's nice to see a lot of friendly and familiar faces here, but if you're new, welcome. My name's Eric. I'm the artistic director here at the Southampton Playhouse, and I'm so thrilled to welcome you to this event in particular. We were really excited when we started the summer to incorporate musicals as much as possible, and this Tuesday Tunes series has really done the trick. I mean, we've had so many different kinds of fun experiences here, but what's been really great about it is that each time we've screened a movie, we've also been able to augment it with a special conversation that could only happen in this room. And because we're a nonprofit, that's really what we live for. Not only bringing in, great talented people who can talk about these things in knowledgeable ways, but also to lean into our community to bring those conversations to us. And tonight is a perfect example of that. Earlier in the year, in May, when we held our second annual Gary Cooper Festival, I was introduced to Shelby Coleman, who was eyeing the Oscar that we had, Gary Cooper's Oscar, and said, hey, my husband was nominated for one of those things, but I never got to hold one. And at first I said, okay, we'll definitely hold the Oscar. But also, tell me about your husband. Oh my gosh, Cy Coleman, are you kidding me? We have to show Sweet Charity. So that's how long we've been talking about this. And it's such a great moment in time to showcase this movie because, of course, it is coming back very soon, which you'll learn a little bit more about tonight. Really quickly, I want to plug a few things that are coming up in the next few days as the summer comes to a close. We have a weekly conversation series called The Playhouse Parlor on Saturday at 5 p.m. We have Belle Burden, the author of the bestseller Strangers, who's going to be here. It is sold out, but we have a wait list. So if you go and talk to our staff, or check our website. There's information on how you can put your name on the wait list for that. Also, on Thursday, September 3rd, we're moving into a different music series. It's called Playhouse Rock. So we're going to turn the volume up a little bit. And we're doing something really cool across the hallway, which is a Dolby Atmos listening party with three albums by Brian Ferry and Roxy Music that have been fully remastered in Dolby Atmos. So you'll get to make the most of our surround sound setup in that room. And you'll learn a lot about sound mixing and sound design from Isaac Ferry, who's a great DJ, and Brian Ferry's son. In that particular situation, while there are seats, you can also stand up and dance. So it should be a really good time for everybody. But back to tonight. I love this movie. I love all of Bob Fosse's movies, but this one in particular, it's amazing to see a filmmaker whose skill is just right up at this level that it needs to be to showcase their artistry out of the gate. But a lot of that in this case is because of the music. And Cy Coleman's legacy is one that deserves as much recognition and as much reappraisal as possible. So we're going to keep that momentum going tonight. Please join me in welcoming, for a brief introduction, Shelby Coleman.
Thank you. Oh, this is on a thingy. Okay, let's get it closer. I don't need notes. Who needs notes? So, like that? Yeah. If I talk, that's perfect? Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to the Playhouse. I got to tell you, Eric and the whole team have been fantastic, and I hope you all come to all their movies and all their stuff and everything that they do. Jamie with the tickets, thank you very much. Really helped me out a lot. Okay, see? I just said a lot of nice things about the Playhouse. Okay. Anyway, yeah, like I said, Eric said, I first met him when I saw the Gary Cooper Film Festival here, which if you didn't see it this year, you should come back next year. They're always doing new movies. I've never enjoyed something more than seeing an old Gary Cooper movie on the big screen. So that's why I'm so excited to see Sweet Charity tonight, because I have never seen it on the big screen. So I'm very excited about it. The reason Gary Cooper was here, their film festival, is because he had a big association with Southampton. And I was telling Eric, I said, my husband did too. He lived here for a long time. And I thought I would just tell you the story real quick about how he ended up in Southampton, because it has to do with Sweet Charity. So, as you'll see, Cy was asked to do Sweet Charity in 1969, the movie. And in 1970, Universal sent him a check for $132,000. Now, he didn't put that in the bank or anything. He kept it in his pocket. He didn't want to, for some reason, he didn't want to put it in the bank. So he decided he wanted to buy a house at the beach. He'd been coming to Amagansett for years. And his real estate agent called him and said, I have this house in Southampton that I'd really like you guys, they'd like you to see. And he said, there's only two problems. One, it's on the beach. And nobody liked to live at the beach at the time. They all wanted to be in the estate section. He goes, well, I like the beach. That's okay. And then he said, the other problem is in the hippie section. So I said, the hippie section of Southampton? He goes, they wear the wrong colored golf pants. And they showed him the house. He loved it. And it was a builder who'd built it for his wife who didn't like the beach, like so many people. And he said, I know you're asking a little bit more, but I have this check for $132,000 that I got from Universal. And the guy said, I'll take it. And that's how we ended up on Meadow Lane, which I thought was a really good story. So I'm going to introduce the movie, but I thought I should tell you just a teeny bit about Cy, because I do a show called Who the Hell is Cy Coleman? Because nobody knows that name, but they know his music. And believe me, you do know his music. Cy was born in 1929 in the Bronx, and his mom owned a couple of tenement buildings. She couldn't speak English. They're from Bessarabia. I'm going to talk fast because I don't want to hold you guys up. And one day, a tenant skipped out on the rent. It was the Depression, and left behind a piano, a little upright piano. And she moved it into their apartment. And their youngest son, Cy, was Seymour, saw the piano and started banging on it. Bang, 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 bang. And apparently, very short ordered, I'm talking like a week, he taught himself how to play the piano. And he was a child prodigy. He played Carnegie Hall when he was 6. This is him with his friends looking at their little medals that they got and everything. And he studied music and art at Music and Art High School. He started playing music in clubs when he was a young teenager. They'd slip him in through the kitchen, put him at the piano, no one could see him. And when he was 16 years old, he bought his, isn't he cute? His baby grand piano. Gorgeous, tiger wood, gorgeous. I still have it. And he was 16 years old during the Depression, and he bought that piano because he played everywhere all the time. That's all he wanted to do was play, 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 play. He became a jazz musician, and he had a trio that played all over the world. And they wanted him to be a concert pianist, but he loved jazz. But then he started writing songs. So he had a few hits right out of the box. Witchcraft, Frank Sinatra, Best Is Yet to Come, Tony Bennett, Why Try to Change Me Now, with Nat King Cole. And then theater came calling. And Cy had his first show when he was 30 years old on Broadway. I mean, sometimes I shake my head at that. And it was with Lucille Ball, biggest star in the world. Then 2 years later, Bob Fosse and Cy collaborated on a show called Little Me, which was with Sid Caesar, also the biggest star in the world. And his third show, Bob came to him and said, I want to do a show based on this Fellini movie. It's called Nights of Cabiria. And it's about a lady who walks the streets and whatnot. And they turned her into a dance hall hostess, as you'll see. And Bob wanted to do it with his wife. That's not his wife. With Gwen Verdon. So this is Dorothy Fields, who wrote the lyrics. She was a lot older than Cy when they were working on this together. But they had just started working together, and she was the biggest female songwriter of the 20th century. She already had won an Academy Award for The Way You Look Tonight, I think it was. Then Neil Simon comes on to punch up the book. Neil Simon, one of the biggest playwrights, he ended up rewriting the whole book of the show. And this is Gwen Verdon, who starred in the show on Broadway and did very well. Had a lot of revivals over the years, many revivals. This was the last one on Broadway. Then the movies came. They wanted to do the movie, and Cy and Gwen and Even though Gwen wasn't going to be in the movie, they wanted a movie star. They got Shirley MacLaine. They all went out to Hollywood and they started shooting and scoring the movie together. That's Gwen and Cy working together on the show itself. It's Sammy Davis Jr. You'll see him in the movie. That's Cy looking super cool. And Gwen. Cy was always super cool. Super cool. Oh, see, this picture really doesn't have anything to do with Sweet Charity because that's Hugh Hefner in the back there. Yeah, I just love the picture. It's when they were scoring, or Cy wrote the Playboy theme. And this is them goofing around. It took a year in Todd A.O. Studio in Los Angeles to score Sweet Charity. It was worth $132,000. Love this picture. This is Bob teaching Shirley how to dance, to do the dance number of If They Could See Me Now. Look at him. His feet are off the floor. Isn't that cool? Sammy Davis Jr. and Shirley, a really cool shot. I love it. If My Friends Could See Me Now, he's teaching her. And Cy got an Academy Award nomination, as Eric mentioned. And this is Ariana DeBose, and she won an Academy Award a few years ago for West Side Story, and she is the next Charity. Coming to Broadway. Look for her next year. And I think that's it. And then you've got something to say?
So, and speaking of charity, we'll have a very special message before the film, and we hope you'll stick around afterwards. Shelby will be coming back for a quick Q&A to address the movie. Now that you've seen it, by the way, how many people are seeing the movie for the first time tonight? Just out of curiosity. Nice blend. That's what we really live for. So have fun, and we'll see you after. Thanks again for coming, everybody. Thank you for being here again and doing this with us. It was such a joy to see it with this group of people and in this room and on this big screen, with your first time seeing it on the big screen as well.
That was fantastic.
It looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks really good.
So I'm not going to ask you if Cy cried at your wedding, but maybe you could tell us a little bit about, first of all, the differences between the production that was on stage and this version, because obviously Bob Fosse found this really interesting kind of middle ground between movies and theatrical language. But beyond that, what are some of the key differences that you think are worth singling out to people?
Well, there's different songs. There's My Personal Property, which was written for this. There's this movie ended the way it had to end, because they shot two different endings. One was a good ending, and that didn't work. And it's because Nights at Cabiria in the story, it's not a nice, it's not a happy ending. Poor Charity. It's so sad. They try to make it hopeful, And in the show, they wrote so many different endings, and every single revival has had a different ending. And so this ending, it's actually pretty good. I mean, it's the hopeful thing. It's kind of sweet. So yeah, they changed some of the music, added songs, took a couple out, but it's a sweet face. That's a nice face. That was added. Basically, that was the only thing I can think of. I think it was pretty true to the stage.
Now, our friend Shirley MacLaine told us in her little intro that the movie didn't do very well. So what do you make of that gulf between this show that's been brought back to life so many times and even today's is right around the corner, and the fact that the movie just didn't perform, and how did that impact Cy?
Well, I think that what happened was it was 1969, and rock and roll was coming through, and this was a very different kind of music. It's Broadway, it's more pop, it's rock and roll really did impact so much. But also the studio rolled it out as what they called a road show, which is they wanted a long movie because they had wanted an intermission, so they made it a really big deal. They were thinking this was just going to be the smash hit of the season. So they made the movie a little too long, and it's just too bad. And I don't know, I really can't tell you exactly why, but Bob Fosse got hit pretty hard for his direction. And some of the comments were that, oh, his sharp angle cuts and his weird little things he was doing here. And turned out a lot of this has become industry standard. And then he went on to do a lot of other movies where he brought this kind of stuff to it and it worked. So it was new for them, this kind of the art you saw in it.
Yeah, and I think what's also amazing about that is when you look at it now, it really anticipates so much about Bob Fosse as a filmmaker and so many other things that came after that in terms of sort of reinventing the musical in the movie form. But it also it's like pushing for the future of Broadway too, and the idea of this kind of experience can open itself up to a new world. That ending it is tipping towards the 60s and
Yeah, exactly.
Love Child and all that kind of energy, which is really fascinating. Can you tell us a little bit about when you first met Cy and kind of the very different a different era in his life with all of these amazing works behind him? What it was like to sort of absorb that body of work as you got to know each other?
Yeah, it was great. Cy was the king of New York. I met him in Mexico, and I was living there. He came on vacation. I was living with my sister. We fell in love just as quick as you can make guacamole. And I moved to New York and learned all about it and had no idea. I had no idea about musical theater. I'm not a professional, thank God. There is no home that can stand two divas, and he was a diva. So, but I loved getting to know everybody. I was so lucky to meet so many of the greats. Betty and Adolph Green and Betty Comden. Cy wrote a lot more shows after this. Cy got 13 shows onto Broadway, which is almost unheard of. I mean, Gershwin and, the Rodgers and Hammerstein, they clocked in a bunch. But Cy, on his own, got in 13 shows, which is pretty amazing. And I want to point out one thing. The critics, when the night that Sweet Charity opened on Broadway, were pretty good with the show, except for the New York Times. Stanley Kaufman of the New York Times said, "Not only are there no songs you'll ever remember from this show, there are no songs you would want to remember." And 20 years ago, I counted, there were over 300 covers of Big Spender alone. Where Am I Going? Barbra Streisand had a nice hit with that. You can count them down. And the other thing I want to tell you real quick, because I learned it just the other day when I was reading about Sweet Charity more for this, is that Rhythm of Life with Sammy Davis Jr., wasn't he great? You got to remember way back, that was hours ago. But Cy said that was inspired by Bach. Now, I've got to listen to that song again. I listened to it tonight thinking about that. I don't know enough about Bach, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, how much was Cy musical at home? I mean, did he sometimes just start playing songs?
No.
You didn't hear it at home.
No. Cy didn't. He was so funny. Cy didn't sit at the piano like in the movies, and write a song and try little things out and then, oh, yes, is this going to work? No. That was just secretarial work, he said. He said he wrote down music on paper so other people could hear it. And that was for the piano. He already heard it. He said, "Oh, I got so many songs up here, honey." He goes, "Opus 1, 2, 3." And he just knew it. Like he'd say, "Okay, we need a song here." "Oh yeah, I got a great one." And he'd throw it out there. So no, he was not. As a matter of fact, he'd do anything but that.
Now, if
he liked listening to classical music,
which is incredible too, because if you listen to some of his other music, it's there's such a range to it. If people are curious who may not know as much about Cy Coleman, to bring this full circle from your who the hell is Cy Coleman concept, what else can you tell people about his body of work? Where else should they turn to hear more of what he put together from these 13 shows?
Well, Cy was a huge recording artist. He had like 30 albums. He was constantly in the studio. He had 13 shows, like I said. Will Rogers Follies, which is a sort of a Western themed show, which is crazy. Some great Western. Oh, did you hear Dolly Parton died today? Talk about a great songwriter, huh? Whoa. Anyway, I don't know where you go with Cy. He scored a lot of movies. This was probably the most famous, of course. And he was kind of guy where they didn't know. I asked Cy one time, I go, how come nobody knows, your name? You're like, why not? And he goes, because when I was a kid, they were grooming me to be a concert pianist. He said, and then when I was a teenager, I started playing jazz. So they said, oh, he's a piano guy, a classical guy who wants to play jazz. So then I started writing pop music. And they go, oh, yeah, he's a jazz guy who thinks he can write a pop song. And then he said, I went to theater. And they said, oh, he's a pop songwriter who thinks he can write a show for the theater. And then he went on to do more and more. I go, so he could never just decide who was this guy. Who is Cy Coleman? He said, so that was why. He said he wasn't one thing. He just kept moving to the next kind of thing. And he did, right up to the end of his life.
And how did he feel about that?
I don't think he loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would have liked to have been more well known in that way. I mean, everybody who knows music, jazz people, oh, they adore Cy. Theater people adore Cy. They say he's one of their favorite composers. I have a picture of Duke Ellington handing Cy a crown and saying, "You are the king of jazz." Cy is a great jazz pianist, and if you can ever listen to any of his albums, he'll just blow your mind. He was so good.
Well, I think we all have work to do. Thank you for bringing Cy to us tonight.
Oh, of course. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for bringing us all together.
Oh, this was so much fun.
Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Oh,
more soon.
I love it.
And thanks for being a great part of our community.
Oh,
thanks,
everybody.
Thanks for being here.